everyone, and good morning. Welcome to our live feed update for September 4th. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and with me today, Chantele. How you doing, Chantele?
Oh my God, it's an honor to be here on Liana's Saturdays. So I have big shoes to fill, but I'm happy to be given the opportunity.
Yes, all right. Well, we are here to update you on everything that happened yesterday on the Big Brother 23 live feeds. It was day 59 in the house. And we actually got a decent amount of shifting in terms of these long-term plans, at least for now. They were finally made last week, and now they're already being changed this week as people are still pissed off and other people are just completely dropping the ball. Really, it's not even that they're dropping the ball, it's that they're not even catching the ball first, right? Like the ball is being tossed to them. It's really being handed to them and they're like, "Whoa, no, I don't want the ball." And then things shift because of that.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, what I really observed is that why is Xavier making me annoyed with him? Like, I'm just like, please, Xavier, like,
Oh,
okay,
God.
like just my one comment about it that I'm sure going to say many times through this update is that like it's not a natural thing to throw competitions. And so like the fact that she didn't throw it, I know it wasn't the plan, but like some people can't throw competitions. We saw that happen with Kyland a couple weeks ago. He just said the right answer and he won it. And he was supposed to throw it to Azza. And so just the fact that everybody's just so mad that someone didn't throw a competition in a game that they're playing for themselves
Well,
is just been frustrating.
everybody, meaning Xavier. He is literally the only one mad about this. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I tweeted about this because I just couldn't like anytime you saw Xavier on the feeds yesterday. Remember yesterday on the update, I said, "Hey, Xavier, let me just quickly set the scene here. In the HOH competition, Tiffany won. She plans to nominate Xavier and Alyssa to send Alyssa home. And Xavier, yes, the day before, spent 9 hours from when she won to when he went to bed, just constantly complaining about Tiffany winning this HOH. I was hoping that Xavier, chill dude, would wake up the next morning and be like, you know what? Maybe I should chill. No. Anytime you saw Xavier on the feeds yesterday, you'd be like, I wonder what Xavier's talking to Kyland about. Switch the audio. My thing about that HOH, though, is that when I threw it, oh my God, okay, switch away for a minute again. I wonder what he's talking to Big D about. I'm just pissed off, Big D. I'm just pissed off. People are taking advantage of my kindness in this game. Oh my God. What is he talking to Hannah about? The thing is, Hannah, that when I threw that competition, oh my God. How can you whine so much?
I wonder if there's going to be a new hashtag Xavier complains.
Right? This is big Kyland energy.
Yes. No, it's really frustrating because I guess he's not as strategic as we were giving him credit for, and he's just a little bit more emotional because I feel like it's all because it's Alyssa that he's trying to be the savior for, and he doesn't want to see his girl go that he has such a big crush on, and like I think that is really what's motivating him not playing a good game at this point.
Oh man, it was it's a bit much here. It's a bit much. So let's get into the day. Just you can imagine all of that's happening with Xavier. Literally every conversation that he's in. Tiffany though starts the day with Claire. She talks to Claire and primarily is focused on, okay, Claire, if you win next week, Big D should be the target. Big D is there for the person that she wants out of the 6 first. Once they hit 6, which means if Claire wins at 7, she's hoping Claire will take that shot for her, and then she gets down to 6 without Big D and with Claire. In my opinion, based on what she's going to talk to Hannah about and to the cameras about a little bit, this is not only her backup plan, but what she is actively hoping for.
Yeah, well, I don't know if this is the best for her. Like, I don't mind it because I'm not really the biggest fan of Big D, and I don't think that I think that he would come for her, and I don't want any, people dragged to the final two and potentially could win the game. I just don't want that to happen. So I understand the reasonings behind it, but I think Xavier is just way more dangerous, and he's way more angry and way more vindictive. I think that she should be looking at Xavier going home as soon as possible. Like, if she knew how mad he was, like, I think that she would be changing her mind here.
Yeah, so Tiffany is going to have one-on-one conversations throughout the day. They last a decently long time, each one of them, and she does not have a real one-on-one conversation with Xavier throughout most of the day. So basically, what's going to happen is that each person that has a one-on-one conversation with her flunks the test. Like each person fails the test, and because Xavier doesn't even have one, she like defaults back to him by the end of the day. So we'll get there. But she's hoping that Claire will take the shot at Big D here at this at final seven if that happens. And Claire's kind of like, well, why would we take the shot at Big D to weaken the guys when we could just take a shot at those guys that we're trying to weaken?
Yeah.
And Tiffany's like, well, remember when you said the thing about, well, Big D's going to take up a spot and because he's a goat and everyone's going to want to take him, so that we should want him out, right? And Claire's like, at this point in the game,
Where's that chessboard? Let's bring the chessboard out because I don't know if this is a great rationale.
this is the
here.
thing. Tiffany needs Claire. She needs Claire to help her with her end game. That's what I'm saying. She needs Claire because Claire will be able to tell her, what are you thinking taking Big D out first? I know that he's coming for you, but like, it's Big D.
I mean, I do think that Tiffany's going to figure things out. And I don't know if we'll talk about it, but I really want like Xavier to win and the veto competition. I want him to take off Alyssa. And I want Tiffany to be pissed and put up Big D. Like, there's nothing I've wanted more this season than for that scenario to happen. I don't think it will because I don't think he's that bad of a game player, but a girl can dream.
Mm. Tiffany is also going to talk to Alyssa, basically let her know that she's going up on the block next to Xavier. Alyssa is going to try to pitch that, hey, maybe something else should happen. To no avail here, of course. She says that, hey, I was going to keep you safe. We should make another deal. I'm going to go after Kyland. And hey, you could beat me in the final two. You got votes over me. Come on. But it's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, I thought that she did a really good job. She wasn't like offended or mad. Like she kind of really handled the possibility of being nominated very well. And I thought that how she laid out, like, listen, if you're sitting next to me, you have all these guaranteed votes against all these other people. You don't necessarily have these guaranteed votes anymore. And so I thought she laid it out really nicely. But obviously she's coming up against the cookout, and it's just not really going to work. But I was impressed that she really laid it out quite clearly.
Yeah, I mean, Alyssa has never been a terrible player, especially when it comes to the way that she approaches the strategy of the game. I think she's always been. I think Alyssa is her biggest strength is her strategic mind. Her biggest weakness is her sort of her reads, her information gathering. But because she's just very bad at knowing when people are lying to her. But then she's also not great at like following through with her strategic thoughts. But she still has usually like a better approach than Claire, who's also has her biggest strength being her strategic game. So it's she's still an interesting player. I think that in another season she really could have been somebody that
Absolutely.
is dangerous, but that is honestly probably true of a lot of these players. Um, so Tiffany's going to talk to Big D as well. And they talk through the week again, but she basically wants to know, what are you thinking, Big D, once we hit the six? Once we hit six, what are you thinking? Give me your thoughts. He says, I don't know. Hadn't even thought of it. You know, I'm just thinking. I just think it's most fair to just get to the 6 and then figure it out from there. Every man for themselves. You know.
Doesn't he realize that's the sketchiest thing that he could possibly say? Because, like, there's no way that you're not thinking about what would happen after you get to the 6. That's what you've been thinking probably for the entire game is like, what is going to happen after the 6? And well, with Big D, it's been even beforehand. He's been waiting to maybe make a move before the 6. So the fact that he didn't even lie, like, just be like, yeah, like me and you, Tiffany, let's go to the end. Like, something. She's head of household right now. Like, he just couldn't muster up one little bit of a lie just to like appease her.
This is what I mean when I say that, like, everybody failed in these conversations. Big D is so bad at this game. Like, I have trouble coming up with another player that's worse than Big D at this game. He is so bad at this game.
And he's gonna get to final 2.
Well, that's the thing. He's probably not. He's probably not even going to make, because that's what I mean. Like, even Victoria, even like the pinnacles of like these are not great players did make it to the end because they at least were good enough to be pawns to bring to the end. Big D is not even good enough to be brought to the end. They want him out. They want him first out. Big D, the least threatening person in the 6, they want him out first because of how absolutely horrible he is at this game. He's so bad that they don't want to, because how it goes is you're good at the game, they don't want you in the end. The worse you get at the game, the more they want to bring you to the end. You reach a point where you're really bad at the game, they want to bring you to the end. Big D has shown us that there is a level below that. You reach that peak and then you just keep going. And you can be so bad at the game that you're terrible and can't win. And also they don't want to bring you to the end.
Well, is it because they don't want to lose or to sit beside him? Like, what is it that made him even worse of a player that he's surpassed the possibility of being dragged to the end?
Because nobody cares about him in the game. Like,
that's true.
Kyland, like,
a little bit.
His biggest person is Kyland. Kyland doesn't want to bring him because Kyland wants to go to the end with better players. He's got Azza, but even Azza's kind of like, we'll talk about Azza. Xavier doesn't want to bring him because he doesn't trust him. He'd rather go with, he feels like he can beat Hannah. He feels like he can beat Tiffany. He feels like he can beat Kyland. He's got other people he can beat. He doesn't need Big D. Nobody feels like they need Big D in the end. He can't even muster that.
Oh, poor guy. Especially since he thinks he's running the show. He started the cookout. He is the mastermind of the season.
That's the thing. And he's busy like explaining to Tiffany that he created the cookout and he has been running the game. And but also, I don't know, once we get to 6, it's who knows?
The mastermind has no idea what he's gonna do.
Yeah. Tiffany says to the cameras afterward, this man is trying to convince me he hasn't thought about what to do once we hit the 6. Like, who does he think he is? That conversation was done as soon as he started talking. Like, get out of here.
Well, and she's like even sharing it with people like, yeah, Big D didn't give me anything, so that means that I must be his target. Like, that's what she gathered from it, which she should.
He was like, man, it's, I created the cookout, and Frenchie was supposed to be, he was invited to the cookout. The old man invited to the cookout, supposed to make it to 7, but didn't happen.
Yeah, sorry, Big D. That was like, there's no way that was ever going to happen, but it's nice to have like another dimension where you think that was a possibility.
So that's that. Tiffany already knew that Big D was coming after her, but like, he basically was just like, yeah, like all but like, honestly, it would have been better if he had just come out and said, you know what, I plan to target you at 6, because at least then they could have had a real conversation about it and maybe something could have come of it. But this whole, I don't know.
Yeah, like the Big D, he seems to, I feel like I watched him having a conversation, not yesterday, another day, and where he was basically saying like, oh well, he just like he lies about everything. He never tells the truth about anything with any of the one-on-ones that he's having. And I'm like, that's actually really bad that nobody can fully trust what your opinion is. Nobody fully knows where your head is at. That's actually not good gameplay that people think that you think that people think that they can trust you, but they actually can't. But you're not giving them anything. So they can't trust you and they probably don't and won't.
Mm-hmm. So I think the thing about Big D that makes him so bad is that other people that have been bad at the game, even the Victoria thought she was running the game, but when she thought she was running the game, she still operated as like she was a good pawn. She was like she was valuable to the people around her. Big D thinks he's running the game and provides no value strategically, competition wise. Like he's not offering anything to anybody that he talks to. He's just trying to take from them, but he's got
What would
nothing.
happen if he makes it to final three and you have to do the game assessment of Big T at final three?
Honestly, it would be wonderful. It would be the easiest one I've ever done.
Short.
Yeah. Anyway, they get a smaller table today. The smaller table is there, only 8 seats.
I remember in the past, I used to love that moment, and like when they would squeal because it's like it's so startling, especially when they go down to like the 4. I do like that moment. It's cute.
Mm-hmm. So Kylan's going to talk to the cameras, and he runs through, how he's looking at his game. He basically feels like, again, doesn't really trust Big D, doesn't really see Big D in his end game. He feels like that basically he feels like it's not in his interest to cut either Tiffany or Xavier because they're both going to take him to the end. He feels like that they might cut him, but he does not think it's in his interest for him to cut them because then other people might want to cut him. And so he basically feels like if he wins that final 3 HOH, he wins the game. If he loses the final 3 HOH, he loses the game. I mean, he has a very incorrect view on his end game is basically what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he thinks that well, one time he talks to the cameras. I don't know if this is the same time where he's basically talking about like, yeah, like I have like my exit, my goodbye videos, and like he was saying that as a positive, and I was like, wait, what? Like you completely went against the cookout. You told 2 people so far about the fact that there was an alliance in the game, and you don't think that when a cookout member gets over there, hears this information, they're not going to be pissed. So I don't know why he thinks that he's actually set up better than he actually is. It's very strange.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's not selfish. Sorry, that's the other thing.
Oh,
That
of
he
course
said.
not.
I was like, sorry,
Nobody's
what?
nobody's selfish. Nobody's selfish. So Tiffany talks to Azza, and this is another just like, what are you doing? She talks to Azza, and she's talking again about endgame plans. Azza wants to go after Kylan at 6. Now, this is not what Tiffany wants because Tiffany knows that if Kylan goes first, Xavier and Big D and even potentially Azza might all come after her next because Kylan is her shield. And she knows that Kylan won't cut her, which is true. So Tiffany, now I think that this is not great. This is terrible on Azza's part. It's not great on Tiffany's part either. I don't think that Tiffany understands how to approach Azza. We've known this from the start. Now, I don't think she does a terrible job here, but I don't think she approaches this in the right way, and I don't think she comes away from this conversation with the right message. But most of that, I think, is going to be on Azza. But Tiffany tries to approach this from a logical sort of standpoint and a logical self-interested standpoint of, she says, if Kylan leaves, I'm going to be targeted next. And Azza's like, basically, okay, sure, but Kylan's coming for me. I don't want to keep Kylan around so that you're not next when he's coming after me. And Tiffany says, well, maybe, but like, think about it. Even if Kylan does come after you, who's going to vote you out? Nobody. If he puts you up next to who? She says, maybe Hannah. Okay, next to Hannah. Even if I vote you out, why are you saying that? Even if I vote you out, Xavier and Big D will vote to keep you. Um, and let's say you're up next to me. I certainly get voted out over you. If you're next to Xavier, you'd better believe me and Hannah are voting to keep you over Xavier. So you're not going to leave even if that happens. I don't think this is a good argument for Azah. She's like, oh, that's an interesting thought. But this is not what Azah cares about. And Azah tries to explain to Tiffany what she cares about. She says, honestly, because Tiffany's like, I want to move forward with you, Azah. I want to like get to the end. She wants this final 3 or final 4 at least with Azah. I want to move forward with you in this game. And Azah says, if I'm being honest, I don't really see myself winning this game. I just don't see it. I've been thinking a lot about this. I think my purpose in this game was just to help advance the cause. And Tiffany's like, how do I work with that? Tiffany doesn't understand how to influence somebody who doesn't care about winning.
And I'm kind of with Tiffany here. It's like there's nothing that can sway her for anything because she doesn't have a desire to win. And that's like very frustrating. You can't really be working in an alliance with somebody and someone that's just like has an opinion about everything that you do, but it's like she doesn't have the same motivations. And there was one point in that conversation where Tiffany's like, I had to put aside the desire to want to see my family winning the head of household. Like, I don't think that necessarily that should be our reasoning for winning head of household. And she's like, well, we're gonna have to agree to disagree about that. And I was like, well, also, you can see her perspective as someone that wants to win the game, that putting aside family and all that allows her to be focused on the game. So can't you see that that's how Tiffany operates here? And the fact that they really couldn't see each other in that conversation was pretty frustrating. And I'm kind of over Azah saying, let's agree to disagree here. It's like, well, how about we figure out and come to like an even playing field here? Like, let's meet each other where each other are at so we can understand each other more. I don't know why. I guess agree to disagree. It's like, solve it.
Yes. Well, the thing is that Tiffany has been very effective with Azah over the last few weeks. But she's never like really had this like sit down, let's lock it in conversation with her. And that's where I think their communication styles they do not mesh very well. And it's not working here for Tiffany. She doesn't understand how to appeal to Azah's point of view. And Azah is, as you said, completely unwilling to meet anyone halfway when it comes to that. And so this conversation is not working. And Tiffany clearly has a game plan here. She intended to try to get a sense of where Azah was, tried to convince Azah to not go after Kyland at 6 if possible, and to be down for the final 3 with Hannah that Hannah wants to do. But she can't even get that far because Azah keeps putting up roadblocks every time she starts her momentum in this pitch. This is what I believe Tiffany intended, right? She intended to go, hey, here's the explanation for why I won this HOH again, just so we're cool with that. And then like, how do you see things moving forward at 6? What about, how do you feel about Big D essentially, like maybe leaving? How do you feel about Xavier? Maybe a final 4 with Kyland, because Kyland makes sense for our games. Here's why. There's some incentive to keep Kyland around. Final 3 with me, you, Hannah, would be great. And hey, just so you know, I'm keeping you off the block for sure. Xavier wanted you on the block this week because he thinks that everybody should be nominated in the cookout. Isn't that a silly concept? What is he thinking about that? Xavier doesn't actually have your back, essentially. That's sort of like the bam, 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 Tiffany's trying to go for it. But as I said, right from get-go, Azah's like, yeah, but I don't know. It's like Tiffany can't, because Azah doesn't fit Tiffany's style of game. And so it's not working. And Tiffany is just continuing to just like smash her head into this brick wall.
Yeah, it must not be fun. Just because like even watching it, it's like, oh, like she's trying hard and she's saying okay things like that could maybe stir up a conversation and being like, well, what about this? And what about this? And kind of, have a little bit of a back and forth about this idea. Like if you don't like the idea, can you show Tiffany why it's a bad idea or something instead of just being like, okay, no, I don't agree. Okay, you don't agree. Go on. Like it must have been so frustrating for poor Tiffany to try to get something out of Azza. Like she's basically been like, Azza, I want to take you to the end. Get on board with this plan with me, please. And she's just like, I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna work. What?
And that's the thing for me is that I think that Azza, as I said, like I think that Tiffany has put in really great work with Azza up until this point, and I think that Azza is mostly on board. I think she just basically what Azza is trying to tell Tiffany is I want to take Kyland out because I am okay with everyone except for Kyland winning the game, and so her priority is not what is the optimal path for the three of us to get to the end. Maybe keeping Kyland is better for that path. Her thing is once I get Kyland out, my purpose is fulfilled and I can be happy. From that point, Azza does actually, in my opinion, want a woman to win the game. I think that she would love to go to the end. I genuinely think she would love to go to the end with Tiffany. But that's not as important to her as taking
Not
Kyland out. It's
Kylan.
not as important to her as some of the other things. And it's not out of like a self-interested place. It's out of this is sort of just like how I'm feeling about the people who I'm around. And I don't think Tiffany is going to convince her with logic or incentives. She's only going to convince her with, hey, we're sisters.
Yeah, I thought that was
The
good.
two of us in the end, how amazing would that be? The message of it, whatever it is, right? That's what Azza cares about. And that's what Azza's trying to explain to Tiffany. But what Tiffany is hearing is you don't care about winning this game. You're gonna make a suboptimal move at 6 to take out Kyland, which is not good for me, and you're putting my game in danger by doing that. I can't work with you. And she keeps trying to like, so I mean, look, I'm trying to move forward with us girls. That's what we've talked about. And I was like, yeah, absolutely, I'm down for that. But she's like, so you trust? Who do you trust in the 6? She's like, well, Big D, and you, and like, what about Hannah? You know, and Tiff's like, I just don't think we can trust these guys. I think they're working together.
Mhm.
I think they're gonna take each other to the end, and I think us women need to stick together. And I was just like, yeah, maybe, we'll see. Like it's just like they're on separate pages, and the pages are very similar, but the differences in the pages, they're in different books. Like they don't know what to do here, and this conversation is the primary cause of these end game plans shifting up because Tiffany comes away from this conversation feeling like we don't have Azza. That's it.
But it's also the fact that Ozzy doesn't even care that she's coming off poorly. It's very weird to kind of wrap your head around as somebody that's playing to win a game. I thought it was good how Ozza was saying that she felt as though if she was meant to win, she would have won. And I thought that the way that making Tiffany feel okay about her decision and that she's at peace with it, I thought that was good. I don't know if she was doing it strategically or if it was just her being honest, but I wish that at least Ozza, if she's not going to want to go along with this particular version of Tiffany's plan, her to really explain to why she doesn't want Kylan to win. Like, just explain that really hard to Tiffany and being like, that is my number one objective right now. And I'm sorry that it doesn't work with what your plans are for moving forward, but that's something that I want to have executed before I can move on in this game and with the plan. And if she at least let that know, Tiffany could be like, okay, I understand that. Let me maneuver my game around the fact that that's what you really, really want. And I think that they would have been able to kind of figure something out, but she's just not fully being transparent in that area, that it's very frustrating for poor Tiffany.
Yeah.
And it could mess up Oz's game.
It has. So Xavier is going to talk to Hannah. Now, again, he has been complaining all day, but he is now going to complain to Hannah, which is the first time he's really complained to Hannah. And Hannah is basically like, dude, chill. What are you doing? Like, what did you expect her to do? Xavier, you realize we're playing a game, right? Like, she won an HOH, like in a game where you win HOHs. And he's like, yeah, well, yeah, no, yeah, of course. And it's so funny watching somebody actually push back at his complaining, especially somebody like Hannah, who he respects, because he just completely crumbles. He's like, well, yeah, well, it's actually not that big of a deal. It's fine.
Good. I'm glad she put him in his place because it's just like,
Well, for now,
I
with
know.
her.
But it's just like, I don't know why he can't see that it's not that big of a deal. You know what I mean? Like, I get it. She didn't follow script. Fine. But yes, we're playing a game. We're playing Big Brother. We're playing it for a lot of money. We're still executing the plan, not in the order that you want, but it's still going to be happening. And if perchance that, Alyssa comes down, Claire is going to go up, and she's willing to do that, which completely tanks her game. You should just be hoping for that. Just be like, okay, well, do you know what? She went and went script, and let's just hope that Tiffany's going to have to screw up her own game because of the fact that she's going to have to put up Claire. Whatever. But I think that we always talk about pivoting and being flexible and seeing the new information in front of you. Like, pivot, Xavier, pivot.
Yeah. So Hannah's going to talk to the cameras. And she says, first of all, she wants to tell Tiffany how pissed off Xavier is, because she wants to turn Tiffany against Xavier even more. She does, because she's talked about, her end game is that she wants to be in the end with Tiffany and Azah, and so she needs to make sure that Xavier and Tiffany don't get together. And so she wants to fill Tiffany in on how pissed off Xavier is. Unreasonably so. Now, Xavier ends up interrupting this conversation to the cameras, to be like, oh, and please just don't tell Tiffany about what I said. Like, it's so fun because he was so shut down by Hannah, and then afterwards he was like, oh crap, like, can you just, I just, it's like just not a big deal or anything, but just don't tell Tiffany about it, please. She's like, oh, of course.
Damn it. I wish he hadn't said that.
Well, see, I think she would have told Tiffany anyway, if not for the events of the rest of the day here. So this is Hannah's intention here. Like, this is about, the hammer is about to drop on Xavier. She says that she wants to continue to bring Kyland information because she wants to try and make him feel like she is with him. And she is trying to stay good with every member of the cookout. And she says she thinks she's playing a good game. Hopefully people aren't watching her and being like, oh, you're a floater. People are saying that, aren't they? People are definitely saying that. Hopefully people are like, don't play a chata game. I'm doing my best here. I'm just trying to keep my options open. And she says that ideally her final three is herself, Azah, and Tiffany. And at that point, still kind of wrestling with who she would choose to take to the final two. And this is what I've been waiting for Hannah to know. Is she actually going to take Tiffany, or would she cut Tiffany and take Azah? Now, this is a very short-lived sort of happiness to hear from this because of all the changes later. But she says that she feels at this point in the game, she probably can't beat Tiffany. And that upsets her because she does want to be loyal. So she doesn't know where she would go, who she would choose at this point. And so she's kind of stuck on that. She says also that she does not want to make any deals with people in the end. She wants people to come to her with final deals. She doesn't want to have too many final twos and then have to break them and lose jury votes like Tyler did.
She might come back around when you're actually faced in that position.
Why Tyler lost. I don't understand how this narrative got out there. Who said this? Who said that Tyler lost because of his final twos? You know what? It was Tyler. Tyler said it, and Tyler was wrong too. All of his final twos voted for him.
Yeah, it was the Bailey thing.
It was the people he didn't have final twos with that voted against him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess if you're looking at it for the fact that he had final twos and he had more loyalties to people other than Bailey is the reason why they got into that big fight. Maybe that's why they mean final twos, maybe?
Well, no, it's that he was locked into the, people feel like, people just remember that he had a ton of final twos and he lost the jury vote, right? And so they think, oh, well, clearly you make a final two, you piss people off by betraying that final two, and then you don't get their jury vote. But they did vote for him. They were, because the people he made final twos with were close to his game, saw his game, impressed by it, gave him the vote. People he didn't have a final two with had no idea what he did in the game and didn't vote for him. So yeah, it's
I still think Hannah is set up decently, though. I mean, I think that if she's in the final three and she's making that decision of who to take, and it's between Azah and Tiffany, I wouldn't be surprised because I think she knows that she could more likely beat Azah, that she'd be like, Tiffany, this is a game. We've been playing this together. I never wanted to betray you. I'm so sorry that I have to do this, but for my best chance at winning, you should understand this more than anybody. I have to take Azah here and I have to cut you. Tiffany will be pissed, sad, upset. I think she'd still give Hannah her vote because I don't think she'd want to give Azah her vote.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the thing is, and people are mentioning Sam, and they're mentioning Scotty. He did not have a final two with Scotty. He never had a final two with Scotty, guys. But with Sam, he had a final two with her in the beginning of the game, and then just completely stopped managing that relationship. I mean, he barely spoke to Sam from jury phase forward. To say that he had a final two with her is definitely not really the case there. So because the reason he lost that vote is because he didn't continue to manage that final two. Anyway, that's just a rant about the because it's very frustrating to me that this misconception is causing people to play poorly and not make more deals when they should make more deals. But very good news. Hannah is considering taking Azah to the end. Again, though, probably a short-lived celebration as these plans are going to change anyway, for now at least. Tiffany ultimately nominates Xavier and Alyssa. And Alyssa is going to go to Big D and say, hey, can I pick you in to play in the veto competition? And would you use the veto on me? He essentially says, maybe. And he's like, she's also at one point, I don't remember when this was, but she also says to Big D at one point, I'm sick of you acting like you're going to go on the block. You're not going to. He's like, you should listen to the conversations that I'm having with the HOHs, though. It really feels like I'm going to. She's like, just stop, dude.
I was like, yes, thank you, Alyssa. She's like, it's gonna be me and Xavier, and he's like, I don't think so. I really don't think so. And it's like, nobody's that scared of you, Derek. They're not gonna put you up on the block right now. No, just because Tiffany doesn't like you, or you're coming for Tiffany, doesn't mean that right now she's gonna be putting you up on the block.
Yeah. No. So the backyard opens, which is weird because the backyard does not normally open in this time period because the veto is taking place today, day 60. And so they're usually working on the veto competition in the backyard. We know this is Zingbot. Now, this to me means one of two things. Veto is either, and they've done this before, hide and go veto, Zingbot. Or they're gonna do this competition in the the separate area that they use for the wild card competition and all that stuff. So it could be either or at this point, but Zingbot, and maybe it does make sense to do it in the separate area because as we've heard from Brittany Haynes, Zingbot plus Sunlight. Not a great combination. So,
well, I wonder, if it's hide and go veto, if Derek is just going to lose it with how messy the house is going to be.
Well, Xavier has said if it's hide and go veto, then they have a system. They're gonna be the cleanest hide and go veto house ever.
No,
gonna throw things around.
Oh, and then she's probably get mad at Tiffany if Tiffany empties out the box of Cheerios and be like, "Oh my God, Tiffany went against the plan, and she was a messy with her hide and go veto discovery."
So selfish! How dare she make good TV? So here's the thing: Big D is gonna talk with Xavier, and of course, as with any conversation with Xavier, he is complaining about the competition. Xavier literally, they're in the HOH room, and Xavier is pacing back and forth. It's like, I'm just so pissed, Big D. I've been so selfless in this game. I think back to that wall. If I hadn't thrown that wall competition, then my whole team would be on the jury. My whole team. Yeah. Like, you didn't throw the wall competition for the cookout. What are you talking about? So yeah, I threw that competition. I threw this competition like I was supposed to, like everyone was supposed to. You know what? I'm not even sure what I'm going to do with the veto if I win. Maybe I use it on Alyssa. This is if I feel like being a dick, which I haven't been. I haven't been a dick, but maybe I feel like being a dick right now. I've been a very team-focused player. I'm just starting to get pissed, Big D. I'm just starting to get pissed. No? So maybe I use the veto on Alyssa.
Do it.
And then she has the choice. She has a choice, right? She either puts up Claire and ruins her game because then Claire goes to the jury and she's pissed off at Tiffany, or she puts up a member of the cookout and ruins her game because then we'll all be pissed. That's where the self-interest in me wants to just F over her game, right? Right? And then since we're all throwing, then I'm not going to win at 7. She's not going to win at 7. She can't play at 7. So we're all going to be throwing the competition, right? Then Alyssa wins at 7. Who's Alyssa going to target? Not me, not you. Kyland, the only person she could beat in the end? No, she's going to target Tiffany. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. Big D's like, yeah, I feel the same way. We put a lot of work in, and we should have control over the game, you know? And X is like, yeah, exactly. You know, I just feel like my kindness in this game has been taken advantage of. That's just how I feel.
Well, I think that he's just coming to terms that he has been willing to sacrifice his game for maybes. And like, he can't guarantee anything unless he has the power and control. Like, everybody is playing for themselves. You can't be playing a game like this and expect everybody to do exactly what you want them to do at all times because they're playing for themselves. And it's just like, okay, go for it, Xavier. I would love for him to test Tiffany's, like, what she's going to do. Because, like, if she's going to be losing jury votes anyways, then she's, like, might as well be like, all right, fine, game on. Let's go, cookout against cookout. Like, you know what I mean? I think it would actually just allow her to free up her game, and she could just play how she wants to be playing. So,
yeah, this man said, my self-interest is kicking in, and my self-interest wants me to use the veto on the person sitting next to me on the block. What is wrong with people this year?
I don't know. I
don't
know.
Xavier, he has no sense of irony in this comment. He has no sense of the fact that if he does this, there's a very real chance he goes home. Because if he uses the veto on Alyssa and
so stupid.
Hannah's going to be like, what are you doing? Like, nobody's going to be down for this. Even Azza, I think, would be like, excuse me. And if Tiffany put Big D on the block to be like, no, screw you, Xavier's going home. I mean, I don't think he stays.
Why do I want something so badly?
Because at that point, it's not, Big D's first. It's Xavier just tried to screw me over.
Absolutely.
And I don't think that plays well.
It doesn't, but it would be great TV. And I just would love to see how pissed Tiffany would be getting. Like, that's so rude to be like, oh, I hate the fact that you won this so badly that I'm going to put you in a really obviously terrible position just to be vindictive. Like, I don't think Tiffany would be very kind to that action.
Yeah. So look, I want to be clear. I do not think Xavier will do this. I do not think he will do this. Even Big D was like, that's not a good idea, because even Big D seems to understand that he might go up on the block if that happens. He's like, I don't want to test Tiffany. And Hannah obviously would say, don't do that. Big D would be saying, don't do that. Maybe Kylan would be like, oh, sure. But because Kylan's again, like I feel like whoever's succeeding in the cookout has just been so much about like who's screwed up lately. Like Kylan was screwing up last week, and Tiffany was like, "Yes, give it to me." And now Tiffany screwed up, and Xavier's screwing up, and Kylan's like, "Yeah, all right." Uh, and so. Um, and now Big D and Oz are screwing up talking to Tiffany, and Xavier's like, yes, okay. But I do not think he's going to do this. I think that he might try to throw Alyssa the veto. I think that is the play, the genuine play. But I do not think he will try to win this veto and use it on Alyssa. I'll make my call right here. I do not think that is happening, even though I would love for it. I thought I wanted Alyssa to win the veto. Now I want Xavier to win the veto and use it on Alyssa
Of course.
because no matter what happens, it's going to be amazing. Either Tiffany does stay true to the cookout and nominates Claire, and that's still ridiculous, or and many people, this would be a debate: who broke the cookout first, Xavier by using the veto like that, or Tiffany by putting Big D up? But if Tiffany puts Big D up, I mean, that's also huge entertaining TV. So, that would be amazing. I do not think it will happen.
I mean, yeah, we want it too badly, so there's no way that will happen. If it's hide and go veto, unless he this is the thing with Xavier that's frustrating, is that every time he's super angry about something is when he could have prevented from happening. It's always like, oh, I jumped off the wall and now I want to change on my deal that I made with Derek X. It's like, wait, no, like you can't lose your power and then think that you still have some power. And this is him again, like he fell off because that was what the plan was, but like he fell off, so he lost his power in the game and now he's pissed off. And so I think that he needs to maybe reevaluate like the times where he loses his power. Like, why would you throw it to Alyssa? Because things might not go the way that you want them to go once you give up that power. But he hasn't seemed to learn his lesson yet.
Mm-hmm. So Tiffany is going to talk to Hannah. And again, Hannah was intending to tell Tiffany like, hey, X is oh, sorry. Before we move on, Big D also asks, he says, all right, so Kai or Tiff now, which one of us is going to go first? And X is like, I'm thinking Tiff has to go first now. Tiff has to be first out from the 6.
Whatever.
Not great. Not great for Tiffany.
It's not great for Tiffany, but it's also like she thinks that they're coming for her anyway. So it's not like it's a big surprise that she's who Xavier wants out next. She knows Big D wants that. She already said it to Ozza in her conversations. Like, I really think that I'm going to be going out 6 or 5. And so if this is the actual thing, she can be kind of planning for it. And she gets that.
Mm-hmm. So Tiffany talks to Hannah, and Hannah was intending to tell Tiffany about Xavier being pissed off, but Tiffany is first going to sort of like fill Hannah in on all the conversations that she's had today, and she says, "Look, I talked to Ozza. It went terribly." And Hannah's like, "Oh, what do you mean?" She says, basically, Ozza doesn't trust you. I asked her who she trusts. She said, Big D. And me. I don't think she actually trusts me. I think she was just saying that to me. But clearly she doesn't trust you, because every time I mentioned you, it was all sketchy answers. And I tried to talk to her about like us 3 moving forward. She did not seem into it. She just kept talking about Kylan. She just kept talking about how she's not going to win this game. And I don't think she's on board with us. I don't think she's down. And so I don't know where we go from. And I talked to Big D, and he was even worse. He's so clearly coming after me. So clearly has a deal with the guys. So like, I don't know. It's kind of making me feel like we need to reevaluate. As they're talking, Xavier comes in, and they're like, hey, Xavier, come here. And Tiffany's like, Xavier, I want to talk to you. I haven't really had a chance to talk to you yet. And it's like, she should have, because you'd see through him a mile away, I think. And she does like all of the talking here. She's like, I know that we've discussed the 3 of us, Tiffany, Hannah, Xavier, going to the end together. I want to know if that's still something that you want to do. He's like, yes. She's like, good, because I've talked to everyone today, and I'm thinking that we definitely should be moving in that direction. And he's like, what do other people say? She explains how Big D stonewalled her. She said that Azza only said she trusts Big D. And Xavier's like, well, what did Kai say? Like, what do you think Kai wants to do? And Hannah's like, I don't think Kai wants either of us, Hannah or Xavier, in the final four. And so Hannah's trying to get him pointed at Kai. Tiffany's actually trying to be like, well, I think Kai might want to keep you around a little bit longer. Of course, Tiffany wants him to go after Big D and Azza first, but this is a brief conversation where Tiffany is now saying like, hey, us three, or at least a four with potentially Kyland, because Tiffany's going to go finish her conversation with Hannah after this, and she says, look, Hannah, I wanted to ride with Azza as sisters, but it is not going to work because she doesn't see it that way. And we cannot get rid of Kai. So we have to do Big D and then Azza, and we have to go to the end with X and Kai. It's not ideal. But Azza is just not down. So we're just going to have to beat X and Kai in the end. And that's kind of where we're at.
I mean, I see Tiffany's logic here, of course. I wish that in that moment, maybe Hannah was like, I don't know if we can trust Xavier here because like he's still pretty upset with what happened beforehand. And so he may just be saying what he needs to say in this particular moment, but I don't know if he actually is going to follow through with that. So just so you're aware when you're making your decisions here, like I don't know 100% if Xavier is okay with you. That would have been nice.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, Hannah seems to, because Hannah has now been informed that Azza is not into her still after all this time, because there has been history there. So I think Hannah is genuinely like, okay, maybe we do need to reconsider this. Maybe we do need to take this path. Now, obviously, this is the opposite of the ideal path. I mean, if you could make it like, if you're Hannah and Tiffany and you're looking at Xavier Kyland, Big D, Azza, and you're like, pick two to bring to the final four.
It's not those two.
There's two good ones and two bad ones. Like, okay, pick one bad one. Oh, okay. All right. Well, sometimes it makes sense to bring one threat to the end that can win competition as long as they're loyal to you and you can beat them in the end. Probably picking Kyland in the final three. That's fine for Tiffany. Pick one more. The other bad one. What?
No, I mean, maybe she'll be able to smooth things over with Azza. Like maybe, I don't know, like, because Azza's not going to win any power. So, and it's most likely not going to be Kyland on the block. So it's most likely going to be Tiffany and Claire on the block next week. So Claire is going to be gone, and well, I guess it's going to be a double, but you know what I'm saying. And so I don't know if she'll get the opportunity to make that plan happen. I don't know. Do you think that Kyland and Tiffany are going to be on the block first? Like, who do you think will be up first out of the six most likely if it goes to plan?
So here's the thing. What happened, the plans that were made last week, the original plans, Kyland, for Tiffany, Kyland and Hannah, for Hannah, Tiffany and Azza, taking out Xavier, all of that stuff. That was the culmination of weeks of momentum. The plans being made right now they're quick shifted plans. They're very reactionary. Xavier's pissed off about the HOH competition. Tiffany's pissed off about her conversation with Azza. And so they're making these quick changes. These may not stick in the way that the previous ones could have, because they're so reactionary. And we may see them settle back into something more reasonable. But as of right now, based on these plans, it really depends on where Xavier stands. We didn't really get much more from Xavier after this conversation with Hannah and Tiffany. I have to imagine that Hannah is going to push for this. Hannah and Tiffany talk a little bit later about how they should maybe make a final four, not with Xavier and Kyland, but Xavier and Azza, in order to provide incentive for Xavier to be willing to cut Big D. Because they're like, how do we get Big D out at 6 if everyone else, if Xavier votes out Azza and Kyland votes out Azza? So if they make a final four with Xavier and Azza, then that provides incentive for Xavier to vote Big D out. They can get Big D out at 6, and then they can take out Azza later have Kylan take out Ozza or something along those lines. And so they plan to keep pushing for this Final Four slash Final Three thing with Xavier, and with Hannah pushing for that as well. This might be what cools Xavier down, and maybe he's like, "All right, this seems like a good path." Hannah is kind of the Xavier whisperer. She is the reason he threw this HOH. He's not blaming her at all. She tends to be able to get her way with him. So if she pushes for this to be the end game, I think he might be willing to go for it. But as of right now, given what he said to Big D, it would be Xavier goes after Tiffany. Big D goes after Tiffany. Kylan goes after, it's probably either Big D or Ozza still. And then Hannah and Tiffany go after Big D at 6. And I think they're all pretty capable of taking their target out at that point.
I gotcha. I really hope though that like I don't want Xavier to win now. It sucks. It's like, oh, Xavier, like I don't like your plans anymore, so let's get you out of here now. So Xavier's lost my desire for him to win this game now.
All right. Well, Tiffany says to the cameras late at night that she really just needs Kylan to stay in the game. It's very important for her game that Kylan stays, which is mostly true. Again, Kylan's somebody that can really win those competitions in the end and has no plans to cut Tiffany. It is definitely in her interest. Now, Kylan is a little bit less of a shield than he used to be because she's now pissed people off, and people are now looking at her, Xavier and Big D, looking at her over Kylan at this point. But it is still important for her game to keep Kylan around, and that's the root of a lot of what she's doing here. Again, I think that one of the reasons why she was frustrated, the primary reason she was frustrated with Ozza in that conversation, is that Ozza would not let it go when it came to Kylan. And Tiffany really feels like if Ozza wins and takes Kylan out, then she is screwed. And so that is a primary goal of hers.
This is just something that popped in my head though. So say Melissa does win the veto today. And would you think that Tiffany's going to be allowed to explain why Claire has to go up? Do you think that they'll allow her to be able to do that?
It's an interesting question because I think Hannah would be on board with the explanation. I mean, the fact that they're voting, I think the argument is we're voting her out. After she's voted out, it's just Alyssa left anyway. If Alyssa wins, we're screwed anyway. So why not? So I think it'll be okay. I think she says, look, you guys are making me, I have to put Claire up on the block. This is going to be a tough thing to do anyway. At least let me explain to her the reasons. I think it'll work. I think Xavier's going to be like, I got Alyssa, I'm good.
Okay, good. Because like I just
Although
can't...
no, you know what? Because he's going to be like, I don't got Alyssa if you explain it to Claire, and then Alyssa finds out.
Yeah, that's true too. I mean, hopefully she'll just be like, sorry guys, like if you're making me do this and this is for the cookout, like I'm doing something, like I'm hurting a person. Like this person is my friend. Like allow me to please explain to her that it's nothing against like, something that she did. And so I hope that they let her do that. Well, I think she will anyways, but I hope that it's not going to be like some big, like, betrayal of this cookout again. Look, Tiffany again betrayed the cookout. Like, no.
Yeah, it's a thing. They also they spent I think it was Kylan, Ozza, Claire, and Hannah were talking about like old seasons late at night. It's interesting. They get so many things wrong. It's just they were talking about Dr. Will and his fast, like they got it. And luckily Claire was there for some of it, where like he didn't really get people to fast. Like it was for one day. Like the whole thing is that nobody fasted. He didn't get anyone to fast. And then he claimed credit for it in the diary room, which is the brilliance of Dr. Will. But it was just it was funny, like listening to them. It's so interesting having a cast full of people who are fans of the game, and like they're talking about these old seasons and all of that. And they talked about Danielle Reyes and how she lost the jury, and again, because they saw her diary rooms, which is not necessarily the case, but it was still, it's fun, even when they sometimes get some things wrong. It's tough. It's understandable. You only watch the episodes.
Well, like I love anybody that's a super fan, that's been watching us along for these last 20 something years, like we have. So I appreciate people even, getting information wrong. Totally fine. It's like I could be in there too and misremembering something. And so
Mhm.
I enjoy that because I've seen some of these seasons a couple times and like I still get it wrong. And so I like watching them at least be a fan. I like
Yeah.
fans.
So some fun stuff there. Yeah, I think that's Chantel. Anything else you wanted to bring up?
I don't think so. I think I got all my rants and irritations out today. I mean, I'm really excited for the veto. Like I haven't been this excited for the veto in a while, and because I want to see if things go pear shaped. Like I need to see what happens. So I'm
Mhm.
excited.
So we will see. I just hope that Xavier will stop complaining because it's so much.
He needs to move on. Tiffany, or sorry, Hannah Whisper, go over to him. Tell him that he needs to stop doing this. It's making him a target.
Hmm. I think they've picked players now for the veto. I
Who's
don't know
sitting out?
exactly who the players are, but apparently it did not. It was not something that Tiffany was. It was not a draw she was pleased with.
Oh, does that mean Claire didn't get John?
Probably.
Brutal. Oh my god, that makes me want to cry. I really don't want her to have to hurt Claire this way. I guess it's going to make me cry.
Well, I mean,
Claire is so loyal.
crying is good sometimes. All right.
Oh
All right. That's what we
man.
have for you guys. Thank you so much for joining us here today. I'll of course, be back tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern to update you on everything that happens today on the Big Brother 23 live feeds. We'll see what happens with this veto. It's definitely, there are some interesting outcomes. Alyssa winning would be interesting. And certainly Xavier winning could be interesting. So we'll have to see what happens there. I'll let you know what goes down tomorrow morning. And then, of course, on Sunday, we'll have an episode recap and all that good stuff. Make sure you find me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Taran Armstrong, and on Twitter at Armstrong Taran. I did the patron Q&A yesterday with Jacob Jones. We hung out at the club. Make sure you tune in for that. It was a fun one. We also talked through Sarah Beth's exit interview that we had with her. That part of it was released for everyone. So check all of that out. Chantel, where can people find you?
You can hang out with me on my YouTube channel, Reality Realness with 3 S's. And today, if you're bored and you want to talk about Survivor South Africa, Sarah from Nerdtainment and I go live at 6 p.m. Eastern. So you can hang out with me again later on today.
All right. So thank you guys so much for joining us, and I'll see you all next time.